Okay, so we are on part 4 of my big 33 win, where I turned $33 into $2,000 on PokerStars on a starting field of 354 people. And now we are down to somewhere around 60 something people. And I am one of the chip leaders at this point. And this was 3 hours into the tournament. So we will continue on to the next hand. 9-5 off, doesn't look like a play, that is correct. Nope. Don't play that. 8-6 suited, we don't play from early position. Now we have 53 big blinds. See what's up with 8-3 off. That is a no. Jack 8 off. That is a no. 6-4 suited. We do go for an open. And we get a call from a big stack, new player to the table. And on this board, I'm not going to c-bet this. Some players will be like, you have to c-bet. You have the betting lead. You have all the ace-x and king-x. He does too, for what it's worth. And actually, we don't have that many ace-x and king-x in comparison to the rest of our range, because we're opening a wide range in the button. We're not, we don't have a tight range like early position players do. We're opening a lot wider because we're stealing a lot more, and decent players will know that. And I recognized Peck as being a decent player, so he's going to understand this. So we have to have some hands that completely miss, like in this case, that we just check give up with. And maybe, you know, start barreling on later streets if we pick up equity like a 3 or 5 or a 4 or 6 to some degree. We turn this, 7. He bets. We just fold. It's fine. So you have to know he's going to be playing back at us a lot more. Fold there. Ace-10 offsuit. So I go for another steal, and we face a 3-bet on the button. And this guy 3-bets a ton, like an absolute ton. Look at his 3-bet percentage, 17.1%. 3-bets a ton. And so from the button, it's about 25%, 16% from the small blind. So late position 3-bets. He always 3-bets. It's like cutoff, button, small blind, and big blind. So I decide I need to have some hands in my 4-bet bluff range. And this is probably a pretty good hand for it, having an ace blocker. If I had a suited ace, I'd just flat. With an ace blocker like this one, I'm definitely going to try and do what I can to win the pot. Now, I'm not gonna jam, because we were on the bubble at this point. There were 48 players remaining in the tournament, and 44 got paid, and it was a sizable pay jump too. It was a $33 tournament. A min cash is $80. If the min cash was $50, I'd probably jam here because of how wide he's playing, and we can't really continue that wide. But because of the larger pay jump, he's going to be bluffing a little bit more, and so therefore we can go for a smaller bluff size to try and continue. So we make it 14,400, which I'm not really sure of the sizing. I didn't want to make it any more because then that's kind of committing. So this seemed like a decent size to me. We just double his size, and so he peels in position. We face this flop, which is gross. It doesn't hit our range that well. It'd be nice to just flop like an ace or a king or something that we can go with. We have a 10, but I mean, in his range that he's doing this with, he is definitely going to have king queen off for what it's worth. And he'll have, the hearts and stuff like that. He'll definitely have hearts, but I mean, we check, he jams, we have to fold. Like, we could call for what it's worth, but it's just not worth it in terms of the ICM pressure. This is one of the tournament things where, I mean, if we bust now, we get nothing. After playing for 3 hours, we have an opportunity at getting, what is it, like 2.5x, our money in just like a few minutes if we stick around. And so even though we could definitely be ahead, we're probably marginally ahead, but if we're behind, we're way behind. And so we just check fold. We still won the tournament, guys. So remember this hand. I remember this hand. We could easily just bust it right here if we tilt called, We can't call here. We could, but I don't want to. So now we have 38 big blinds. Now we're kind of in the pack a bit more. We're still, an above average stack, but we have lost that super advantage that we had before. So that's the ebbs and flows of tournaments. You just kind of have to have chips and, see what happens. You're going to go up, you're going to go down, just, hope for the best. We have pocket jacks. We see a 7 big blind jam. And this is an interesting spot. I mean, looking back on it, it's probably better to just call. I jammed. I think what I would have done is if I had pocket 10s, I would just call. In the moment, I might have jammed those two, but for pocket 9s, I definitely would have just called. And ace king, it's ace king and jacks plus that I'm just going to jam with. because I don't want to call and then get pushed off my hand by Akport. This isn't a satellite. This is still a tournament where you're playing to get first, you know, in some sort of way. And obviously we're just barely not in the money yet. I think there are 46 players left at this point, or 47. And so, I mean, it's unfortunate to bust if we do bust, but when we don't, we have a great opportunity of picking up chips from a player who's got, you know, a weaker range than average. And unfortunately for him, his range was just barely weak enough. And we held. It's an interesting spot for sure. I'd like to hear your opinions on that with jacks there. If I should just call or rejam, and you know your reasons why, instead of just saying I would jam, I would call. You know, if somebody has some sort of reasonings that make sense, I would love to hear them, because I'm not really too sure. I have some idea, but not a huge amount. So 44 places to get paid. I think at this point there's 46 players left. Okay, now there's definitely 45 players left. So we're on the bubble. Bubble bursts, and then the bubble bursts. So now we're at 44. Now we're in the money. So now we're guaranteed $80. And we're going to go from there. We were tight, and now we can be a little looser again because the money pressure is non-existent. Park Junipek has picked up a lot of chips by pressuring in the bubble, so good for him. So I know he's a good player, so I'm happy. Being that he was a good player, I am happy that I moved to a new table. We'll see what's up at this table. Fold Jack 5, fold 8-4, Queen 10 offsuit. We see a 3x open from Hustler 182, and we're just going to fold to this. 3x with Ace Queen. King's getting it in there for sure. So it's good to know that this guy is 3xing. He's on average going to be a weaker player when he does this, so that's good to know. We'll remember that for later. On the button, we go for a steal with King 5, and we get a call. It's not really a steal. We have a king in our hand, so it's kind of almost like a value open, but it's really low in our range, so it's almost kind of too low, so it's more of a steal. We see defend. On this board, this is one of those boards that I like a small c-bet on because, I mean, if we had, for instance, Ace 5 and the board was 10 Ace 10, I would check back. You know, the board is so dry, I'd check back that flop. But, you know, I could also bet it because I'm going to be betting a wide range of hands, but I definitely want to be betting the 5 because there's so many hands that have equity against me, but a lot of hands are not going to want to continue right now. So it's a spot like if you have like Jack 8, you know, we bet here, how often is he going to float? Hardly. But if we check, you know, there's still like a 14% chance that a Jack or 8 comes off in the turn, and all of a sudden we lose our advantage in the hand. So good to pick it up right there. We fold, and 3-4, we fold 6-8, King Queen, we do go for an open. We see a raise, the sizable raise too. So we have a hand that we can just fold a 3-bet with. If I had King Queen suited, I would call. King Queen off is too easily dominated by the value hands that he is 3-betting, like Ace Queen and Ace King, aces, kings, and queens. But King Queen suited actually plays pretty well against those hands, of course, for the flush factor. So plus he's not always going to have those hands, he's also going to have some bluffs in there too. And so by having a hand like King Queen suited, it just gives us better equity against his overall 3-betting range. You can see he 3-bets a lot too from the time we have with him, so keep that noted. 6-4 suited, we are going to defend, only needing 19% to continue. We call, flop, nothing, check, and fold. So we would be continuing on like heart boards, low card boards that, you know, give us straights, you know, boards we get a pair. On this board, we have enough hands like Jack 10, 10, 8, clubs that we can, or even, you know, like when we have Queen 7, like we had before. Remember that time we had Queen 7 of diamonds? We get this board, we continue. So you just have to understand what boards you continue on and what kind of hands on certain boards you'll continue on. And it just makes folding, you know, easy because, you know, in the long run, you can make a better decision with, you know, other hands. We're going to fold Jack 4. King Jack, we're going to be calling. It's definitely a fine hand to play post flop. We get another call, and we get another call. So family pot. We see this board, which is just not us. We see a check, we see a lead, then a call, besides fold, a raise, a call, and then a call. Can you guess what they have? 3 deuce, 4-5 straight draw, King Queen. King Queen wins. So that was funny. 3 deuce, by the way. in that multi-way of a pot is a good defend. I mean, you could also go for the raise too, but I think in tournaments, defending with that hand is actually perfectly fine. Fall 4-way going to the flop. I think you only need like 10% if you look at that again. The equity that he needed in that hand to call from the big blind, he only needed 12% equity. What did he actually have against our actual hands? He had 19%. He made a correct call, which seems strange, but it's correct. Fold deuce 8. Fold jack 9 off. Pocket 9s. Let's see what's up. We raise. We get flatted. We get another call. Not a great flop. We're going to be checking back. We could bet small. If I had pocket 7s, I'd probably bet small just because there's enough hands that have better equity against us. I was on the fence, but I figured that when Gearbox flats in the small blind, unless he's a poor player, which he definitely could be, but he's going to have enough hands in his range that are like broadways, like king queen, so I don't want to be value owning myself by betting. So it was close. I could bet small, but also when you go multi-way, it's like if I'm heads up, I'm betting small for sure. Multi-way, there's just a better chance somebody has the king, so I don't love it. So I can go either way with betting small and checking here. I do check, and I like that turn. He's a small bet. I'm not sure what this means. I'm still not sure how strong Gearbox is, but I'm thinking I have a decent hand a lot of time here, but I don't see any point in raising. So we just call. Still a great river, and he checks. And I don't see any way we can get value out of anything. If he has pocket 6s or pocket 4s, then I miss value for sure, but I think he'll still have like some pocket pairs like pocket 7s and 8s enough of the time, and of course having a king enough of the time. So I just don't see him, and of course bluffs that gave up. So I don't see him being able to call a bet here from us. So we just check it back. He has 6-7. Makes sense. Pocket kings. Let's go from there. We raise, get 3 bets. I had no history on this player. Knowing what I know now and how frequently he likes to 3-bet pre-flop, I would have just called and let him barreled off. If I had aces, I would definitely have just called because I felt that he would have been more inclined to have like some bluffs. But with kings, I'm kind of on the fence. You could be bluffing with like weak ace X, and so I don't want to give those equity. So I like just to jam, get it in, and he folds. Queens, I definitely would have 4-bet jam. Same with jacks. Pocket aces, I definitely would have flatted because I felt there's a decent chance he could be one of those players that is going for it with the bluff. But then with kings, he has enough ace X that he's turning into a bluff that has decent equity against kings. That makes it a good 4-bet jam. 9-8 off. I think I defended. Good. He had only 26% equity. We call in position. Terrible flop. And we're just going to fold. Better flop so we can continue on with 9-8. So we'll go from here. Sorry, I just got to open something up. Okay. We're not going to be playing this hand. Except we would have flopped the best hand, but, that's poker. I'm pretty sure we don't open. That's good. We don't. We get moved to a new table, 64,000 chips. I'm trying to think about how many players are left at this point. It's either 27 players or 36. I'm not sure which of those. We get folds. Comes around us. There were 27 at this point. I just remembered 27 players. We only need 9% equity to call. So we call with 8-6 off, trying to hope flop some sort of straight or something, trips, see what's up. Flop an 8, nothing to get excited about. We check, see what's up, and checks through. We turn a 6. I like to lead because nobody here is that likely to have a flush draw because they would have bet that on the flop. So I'm thinking flushes are not a huge part of anybody's range. Actually, the most likely player to have a flush is me or the small blind. The most likely person to have a strong hand here is the small blind that is slow playing something, or the opening raiser who had like pocket jacks who checked them on the flop, which really they shouldn't be, but maybe they were planning on doing a check raise. Anyway, I go for a bet, and I get folds, but I get a call from the small blind, which I am not super thrilled about. So we see a queen on the turn. I don't see how I can get value from anything. The types of hands that we were getting value from before are hands like queen jack, and now those just got there to beat us. So even though we have 2 pairs, I like to check back, and it was correct because he flopped a set of 5s, and I think he played his hand very well because we are the player most likely to have a flush here, and so he was definitely going to be check calling us on the river because we'd also turn ace X, ace of spades X into a bluff, so we have enough bluffs that he can call, but there's just no point in betting himself. So I like his play here with pocket 5s. Unfortunately, it hurt us, And now we're down to just 22 big blinds. You can still win tournaments after being short. You don't have to have all the chips all the way. Look at pay cards. You know, he had 93 bigs. He didn't win the tournament. We won the tournament. We had 23 bigs here. So be patient. You just got to know what to do with every stack. Now we're going to be looking for all-in spots, reshoves, you know, some min opens, but for the most part, no real light steals. We'll see what's up. We see a raise from a player with a lot of chips, 71 bigs, so we can assume he's opening a wider range. So we actually elect to jam here with ace-9 suited, which is a bit on the lighter side, but I don't mind it. When called, it still has decent equity, and I mean, we block an ace, and we also are not going to get called as wide because it's almost turning our hand into a bluff because we're doing it from such an early position. And we know that Giordano is going to have a weaker range on average because he's opening from a bigger stack, which works in our favor here. We pick up chips, go from 22 bigs to 27, fold 5-9 off, fold 3-10, queens though we're not folding. In hindsight, I would have liked a little bit of a larger raise, like 4,200. It just makes it too easy for other players to come in the pot and then, you know, outflop us and such. Flop an ace. We don't like this board. We're going to be checking and evaluating. We like the fact we have backdoor spades. We see a bet. We're planning on check calling and evaluating river, except for the fact that McKayco raised it, and so now it's just an easy fold. The other guy folds. He actually snap folded, which is like a bluff. So I'm not sure what he was doing. He could have had like Jack 10 and elected to bet, which is incorrect. But that's why I check call the flop, because then he could just shut down later streets. No point betting ourselves because we're only getting called by ace-x and flush draws, hands that we're slightly ahead of or way behind. So I like how I played it post flop. Pre-flop would have liked a slightly larger raise. 4-8 suited. We get to see a free flop. Terrible flop. Bet. Fold. Ace-king though is pretty decent, especially with 19 bigs. We see a shove. We get it in. What kind of hand? King-queen offsuit. Got 76 big percent. And that's a great flop. We flop the ace to 97%. We got to fade the chop of a 3 on the turn on the river, which we do. So pretty much a no sweat flop when you flop the ace. So now we're up to 33 bigs, so we have some playability again. Fold ace 5, fold 3-9, get ace king again, open it up, face a jam from a 17 big blind stack. He will have hands like ace queen that we're ahead of, and against small pairs, I mean, we still have good enough equity to call against those because we need 42% equity. What do we have in this case? We have 44% equity against pocket tens. So we will see what's up. We call. We need to get there. We have backdoor clubs. He turns a set and we river a jack. So we get the chips. Tournaments, man. The luck box is... I'm blessed, I tell you. Ace-8 suited, 51 bigs. Let's go. So down to like the final 19 players at this point. So we're 6-handed at this table. 7-handed is going on the other tables, I think. Yeah, that makes sense. Something like that. Anyway, we defend. We only need 19%, so we call. Flop an ace. Pretty good. Check. Check. He does have some strong hands he would check back on this board because it's so dry, so I still don't bet. I check. He bets small. Could be turning some hands into bluffs, like clubs, some 5-6. So we call. 5-6 does get there, but not enough there to beat our ace. We check, and he still bets really small. So it looks a lot like a value bet. We don't beat many value bets, but at the same time, a lot of players will bet small as bluffs in tournaments to look like value bets without realizing the cash game background of me to an extent, some cash games, and knowing that I only need 21%, you know, equity here to be good. So, you know, I sigh and call. And unfortunately, we got owned. He had ace-9. Nice hand by him. I'd play ace-10 the exact same way for what it's worth. So in this case, it worked out for him. Pocket queens. So I'll go right back on the horse. 3-bet. Take it down. Go to Jack-6. Now we're on the final 2 tables at this point. The pay jump is from 18th to 17th. I think at this point we get like $100 for 9th or 18th, and then $120 for 18th. Still ways to go. We fold Jack-6, or do we? I want to make sure we fold Jack-6. Yep. And for 9-7, pretty sure we're going to fold that as well. Yep. Fold 9-7, fold Jack-6. King-Queen suited is not a fold. We open that. We get a raise again by Pekka Jarpeg. And this was an interesting spot. I'm not sure if this is correct. I decided to try something different. I often would take this spot for a flat, but I decided to take a different approach to this spot in that he's going to be 3-betting the stack a lot from the button. And so I can actually value shove here with king queen suited. As weird as that sounds. So I'm all in. Cuz I mean I don't want to 4-bet and deuce, right? I could easily just call. And a lot of times I would just call. But he's got such a wide 3-bet range that I can just win the pot right here, uncontested, which does work out. If I had king queen off, I'd definitely make this play. And I could go either way with a flat with the 3-bet or a jam with a king queen. It's a bit deep. So I'd like to hear your comments on that. Ace 10 suited, we go for an open. We get flatted. And then this player likes to lead. And when I see a lead here, it's hardly ever 8-9. A lot of the time it's going to be hands that have equity against us that are going to keep barreling if they improve. So they're going to have like hands like here like Jack 9, 10 9, we block the 10 9, 7 8. Hands that we're beating right now, but definitely have equity against us on future streets. You could have Queen Jack, you can have some King Queen. So we decided to raise, and this is a value raise. If he was to re-raise, I mean, I'd just call, but I mean, I want to get more money in now while we have the best hand and to force him to play a bit more straight up. He does fold. So we win that pot. I like how I played that. Because we didn't have any backdoor diamonds too either, right? I think if I had backdoor diamonds, I could just call that. But with no backdoor diamonds, we literally have just ace, you know, top pair, top kicker, and that's all we're going to be playing it for. So I like my raise there. Full king 5. So we have a pretty good stack at this point. 150,000 chips. It is at this table the biggest stack. At the other table, I remember it being not the biggest stack. If you look at this, we got Makeko, we got Giordano, we got MM Lifebook, we got Christie, we got Peckhard, all these players that have like big stacks, and then all of a sudden we get moved to the other table. We are right now in the final 16, and I mean we're looking pretty freaking spiffy at this table. This is a short table, so go from there. Queen 8 suited, gonna fold. Ace 9 suited. I like to just outright jam, and the reason because the stacks behind me are 18 big blinds and 20 big blinds. These are perfect stacks for them to 3-bet jam over my open. I don't want to be raised calling off with Ace 9 suited because a lot of the time when they jam, they're gonna have hands that have equity against us, like maybe like pocket fours, pocket, you know, small pocket pair, or they're gonna have like some sort of Broadway like King Queen. So even though we're ahead of those hands or like flipping, we can just win the pot right now. By jamming, and the only hands they can call off with are like top tier hands, like Ace Jack suited, you know, Ace Queen, and they can call with Ace Jack off and Ace 10 suited too. But it's like those kind of like stronger Ace X. The hands that are beating us are gonna call, but you know how often? What's the probability of them getting those hands right? This is actually an interesting spot. You know, if somebody does the calculations, it might be interesting because, you know, we have to see, you know, how many hands they have would rejam over our min open and how many hands would, you know, call our shove. And then, so then we have to evaluate, you know, how many chips we win every time they fold. And then, you know, what our equity is against the hands that call us. And so then how many chips we can expect to like probably lose in the long run by that. Because this is interesting because, you know, with effective 18 and 20 big blind stacks, it's probably pretty close. I know that if they had 25 big blind stacks, that'd be just min opening. We get a call, unfortunate, but we still have 30% equity. That's the thing. Ace 9 offsuit's not great, but Ace 9 suited's better, you know? He's got Ace Queen. Unfortunately, we don't improve. So we go from having a nice, healthy 50 big blind stack to a bit on the fringe 29 big blind stack. We fold. If we had big blind, if we had 50 bigs, I could steal with 69. Now it's kind of getting a little bit iffy. Okay. Fold, fold, pocket jacks. We're gonna go for an open. Get folds. We fold that. 7-9 off. See what's up. See jam. We're not calling. King Jack off suit. Not. We would defend from the big blind, but from here we're just gonna fold. We don't have as much invested, and we don't have relative position post flop. And we don't know what Ack board is going to do. Fold 7 deuce, fold 5-7, probably folding king 7. Fold 4-6, fold ace-8. So you can see right now we're not doing great. Blinds go up. We only have 22 bigs. Actually, an interesting thing occurred. Look at this. 86,000 chips. 73,000 chips. Look at the time. 5:26 a.m. 5:32 a.m. Something terrible occurred at 5:26 a.m. The power went out. I was playing, you know, all focused in the zone. All of a sudden, power goes out, and I hear a car alarm somewhere, and I heard a bang as the power went out too. So I know that a car has like crashed into a power pole nearby, and I am stressing the fuck out because I think at this point we're guaranteed 150 bucks, but my stack is so fragile that I can't afford to fold right now. I need to get back in the tournament to find a reshove spot. And so I end up coming back, and I have lost, you know, an orbit or two's worth of chips, and it's not a fun time. So now we're down to 22 bigs. Thankfully, you know, the power came back on within about 30 seconds, but it took 5 minutes to get the Wi-Fi reset, the modem after all that. So yeah, 6 minutes were spent with me in the dark trying to get back on, and then we're back here. So we see a mid open, and, you know, needing 19% equity. I call, you know, you can call like pretty much any two versus a button min raise. We still don't flop any pairs though. So even though I've been preaching this the whole video series, it still hasn't worked out for us. So I'm still experimenting with it. I'll need to put in more volume to see if this is viable or not. We check. He bets, and he bets small too. That's the thing. They can take advantage of this so easily, which is why I'm thinking maybe I should be defending a little bit less than that wide a range, but I think it's still correct. Plus, I mean, if we have a pair here, you know, it'd be wrong of us to fold pre-flop getting those insane odds. But we do fold now. Okay, 4-3. We're going to be folding. Fold deuce 9. Pocket sixes. So, I was a little bit tilted at this point, having just been in the dark and now deep in a tournament, but only having 17 big blinds after having been doing so well earlier in the tournament. Now I have the exact same amount of chips, but the blinds are that much bigger. And so we got a raise from early position for Bertelson's, and I elected to just fold pre-flop because I know Bertelson's opens a wide range, but this is under the gun, and he's opening bigger than just 2x, which is something that players will do with slightly stronger hands that they don't necessarily want to be defended by. You know, if he makes it 8,000, maybe I'm more inclined to raise with sixes like jam, but at the same time, he's still opening from first position. So I know a lot of players like to steal from here, but his opening range, you can't see it because it's cut off. PFR is 17%, which is pretty normal. His PFRs from later positions are wider, and so I can profitably rejam from there. But versus early position opens, I mean, he's going to have some strong hands, a lot more strong hands than seals. So I fold. And in this particular instance, check, check, bet, bet, cut, call. He had pocket tens. So I'm feeling pretty darn good about myself at that point, having folded and saving my tournament life. Could have easily raised there, jammed, and busted in either, I think it was like 14th at this point, 14th place, maybe 15th. So now we need to find a spot. We need to find a spot to move all in, and that's a pretty good spot. Jam, all in. Fold, sweet, 21 bigs. We're gonna be folding jack 3. Pocket queens now. We open, get called. Pretty bad flop again, so we're not going to be betting this flop. We go check, and we check. Turns a 4, and all of a sudden, bomb. He 2x pots it. So you think to yourself, if he has an actual hand here, if he has an actual hand, king jack, he's betting small on the turn to be able to jam pot size in the river. Why is he 2xing? Whenever I see players trying to bluff that are amateur, or like not amateur, but like new players, like really bad players, they'll take this line. This makes no sense. So I mean, he can have king x for sure. He can definitely have a king x. But he's also going to have random other stuff that he's trying to fold me off of, which in this case was true. He had ace-8 offsuit. So I like the call there. And we have chips again. 35 big blinds. Sweet. And I like to take the spot as a 3-bet against Hustler. He's been folding 3-bets quite a bit, and he does here as well. Ace-queen offsuit. We raise, get a call by an 8 big blind stack, tiny, flop an ace ourselves. He's got a pot-sized bet left, but we're not really afraid of anything. We go for a delayed bet here. He bets the turn. Rather than just calling, we know there's enough hands that can call us off if we jam here, because there's going to be a lot of, like, I mean, there's heart draws, there's straight draws, and there's spade draws. There's a lot of different draws out there. This is a wet board, so I like just to shove. He folds, and we take it down. And I'm going to stop the video there. We have 178,000 chips in the tournament. We are on the final 2 tables, and we are cruising. So I'll show you part 5 shortly.